Hi everybody, Geek Muffins here. Today we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We are going to be launching our new series, which is going to be the top 5 most haunted places in each state. We're going to do it in alphabetical order because at least that way I, personally, will not get confused and redo them as I often do. So without further ado, here we go. The first place we're going to go to today is Sloss Furnace in Birmingham, Alabama. It functioned between the years of 1882 and 1971 with the main task of turning coal and iron into steel. However, if you talk to the people that worked there back then, they would tell you that this particular building was a hellish place to work. Biggest reason for that was the foreman. His nickname was Slay, and there was very good reason for that. But to most people, he was known as James Wormwood. Well, he took great pride in showing off to his bosses and showing them how great of a job he could do. So he actually put the workers of this furnace in very dangerous, hazardous situations. Not only did he give them no breaks and no holidays, which that alone will cause for a very hazardous working environment. But he also made them work single-handedly with some of the biggest furnaces in the building. He made them work by themselves when most of these jobs were 2- to 3-person jobs. Under his care, 47 people were found dead between the years that this furnace was open and functioning. Of those, there were countless injuries from many different types of accidents, from falling off of ladders that were not well maintained to slipping and falling. Amongst these injuries, there were at least 6 documented cases where people were burned so badly from an explosion in 1888 that they actually ended up living out the rest of their days completely blind. Now, these workers did get justice after all. In 1906, Mr. Wormwood actually fell off of what was affectionately known as Big Alice, which was the largest furnace in the entire building. He ironically fell into a pool of melting iron. So there's that. If you go in there, there have been reports of being shoved from behind, being tugged on and pulled at, being yelled at, and there's also rumors that when you walk around Big Alice, you can still hear the sounds of Mr. Wormwood screaming for help. Our next stop is going to be Lynn, Alabama, where we're going to be looking into the Highway 5 ghost. Several years ago, it's not really known when, but there was a teenage girl that was walking home after school. That evening, she was struck and killed by an 18-wheeler that lost control on the road. Worst part, though, is that she was left for dead. He didn't even bother to stop. She was not found until the next day. Now, the reports for this one are kind of hit or miss as to whether or not they're true. I personally have never been there, so I really can't tell you. But it is said that she still wanders the road between Natural Bridge and Jasper. And if it is a raining, stormy night and an 18-wheeler happens to pass by, she has been known to jump up on the side of the truck and look in the window to see if it is in fact the trucker that killed her. Now again, like I said, I don't personally know if this is true. I would love to find out if it is. So if any of you actually have experienced this or have witnessed this ghostly girl walking down the highway, please let me know. Next stop, we're going to Maple Hill Cemetery in Huntsville, Alabama. This cemetery is actually affectionately known as the Dead Children's Playground. It's not really known why it's referred to as such, but there are 2 theories. Number 1, people think that perhaps it is the fact that there's a lot of children buried in this cemetery. And maybe it's just them not realizing that they're dead and wanting to play. However, there is a more gruesome theory. In the early 1900s, around 1906 or so, it is said that there were multiple children that were abducted from their homes and from playgrounds. And they were actually found dead in the vicinity of what is now the Maple Hill Cemetery. The reports for this particular cemetery are as follows. You can hear swings moving when there's no wind. You can hear the sound of children playing, but you look around and there's no one there. You can hear children yelling and laughing. And there's often been orbs that have been spotted in photos and videos taken in this cemetery. Next, we're going to Main Street Strip in Albertville, Alabama. In the early 1900s, this small town was actually destroyed by a massive tornado. This tornado swept through this little bitty town of just a few hundred people or so and completely demolished it. And the worst part is that the tornado came out of absolutely nowhere, so the occupants of the town really didn't have the time to get away. Therefore, almost every person that lived in this town at the time died that day. There's reports of walking through the town and hearing footsteps following you from behind, sudden drops in temperature. Now, if you're walking around in Alabama and it is 70 degrees and then all of a sudden it's 50, something's up. There's also been reports of disembodied screaming. And I'm not talking about just ha 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 fun shits and giggles screaming. I am talking about terror, brutal, horrible screaming as if somebody was being butchered. Which I guess when you think about it, that's exactly what happened. Last on our list is Fort Morgan in Gulf Shores, Alabama. This one's got a little bit more of a history than the others on this list today. It began construction in 1812 and was finally finished in 1834. This building was actually built in a star shape because it was thought at that point in time that it would be easier to defend it because you would have, towers and, gun towers and stuff on each point of the star. It was actually used defensively by the Confederate Army, but seized by the Union Army during the Battle of Mobile Bay in 1864. Union soldiers then, after the war was over and they took possession of the fort, actually set fire to all of the wooden parts of this fort. So a lot of it's actually destroyed at this point, but unless I'm mistaken, it is still standing, so you can still go see most of it. Reports state that the old barracks are actually the most haunted building in this entire place. One, because it was said that a prisoner actually hung himself around 1916 to 1917. That, though, is not really confirmed. And also, what is confirmed, though, is that there was a bomb that was set off outside of the walls of the barracks that exploded, and it killed everybody inside of the barracks. So that's going to be where a lot of your haunting comes from. There is one legend, however. Legend states that sometime in the early 19th century, a young woman was abducted by an unknown man and dragged to this fort. There, he proceeded to torture, rape, and kill her. To this day, it is said that if you walk through the barracks or anywhere around the fort, you can still hear the sounds of her screaming for help. That's it for this episode. I hope that you guys liked it, and if you do, please consider hitting that subscribe button and share this video. In the comments down below, I'm going to leave a link to our very first ghost hunt that we did on our channel. It was quite scandalous, I must say. I'm also going to leave a link to our Patreon. We would love any bit of help that you guys can give us. Everything helps, everything counts. It all goes directly back into the channel. You can also find us over here on Instagram and over there on Twitter. We hope to see you guys again next week. And remember, don't do anything that you don't want to come back and haunt you.